Good morning. Today is Thursday, the 21st day of Elul. Today we're concluding the chapter 15 of Igeret HaKodesh, which we started on Sunday. Long chapter, a chapter that covered the very fundamental concept in Hasidus, in Kabbalah, the idea of the 10 Sephiros, the 10 attributes. And we discussed in the previous days about how it applies to the human condition, how it is connected in the spiritual world, and how we also use it with the godly soul that Hashem put in each and every one of us to be able to use the 7 emotions, the emotive attributes, the chesed, the gvura, the kindness, the justice, the restriction, how each and every one of them enables us to serve Hashem in the proper way, and how this leads to actual doing things, like the netzach, the hoid, and the yesod, which is the final connection, and malchus, which is giving over to the birth for the next generation, the next world. Today, the Alter Rebbe continues, after explaining the emotive attributes, the 7 emotions, 6 emotions and malchus. He continues now to explain the source of the emotions. What is the source? Where does it come from? What is the root of the emotions? This is the intellectual attributes and the intellect. And the Chabad, the Chochmah, the Bina, and the Das, that they give birth to the emotions. That's what we're going to explain, and we're going to see it inside. There's the Alter Rebbe here. Umoker v'sheiresh kol amidos hein mei Chabad. The source, the root of all the attributes are from Chabad. What is Chabad? Chochmah, Bina, Das. Wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. Now, this is something that the Alter Rebbe already explained in the beginning of the Tanya, in short, but here the Alter Rebbe goes a little bit in more details. What is the Chochmah? What is the wisdom? Says the Hainu, Chochmah hi mokeir haseichel. The Chochmah, the wisdom, is the source of the seichel, the source of the intellect. Amasig es Hashem v'chochmosoi ugdulosoi umidois v'akadoshos. It is the source of the seichel, of the intellect, that apprehends God and the wisdom and His greatness and the holy attributes of Hashem. That Hashem, with this attributes, He conducts and animates all of the worlds, the higher worlds, the lower worlds. This is the Chochmah. Chochmah is like the spark. When you have a spark of understanding, like when you have for example, let's say you're in business, you're thinking of an idea, and you have like a flash, like a light bulb comes to your mind and gives you a flash of thought of an idea. You have an idea, and you know, I have it, I got it. This is the Chochmah. Now, if someone is going to ask you right away, okay, tell me what you got. He says, I don't know. I have it. I know I have it, but I can't explain it yet. You have to sit down and you break it down into details. Then that is called the Bina. Bina is the Isboinenus be'asagazu. Bina is the contemplation and appreciation of God's greatness. And this, when you contemplate, be'oirech ve'roichav ve'oimek binosai. He says, you contemplate in the length and in the breadth and in the depth. What does it mean? What does these three things mean? You know, they say the Chachma is like the letter Yud. The Yud is the dot. Bina is represented in the letter Hey. The letter Hey has length. It goes down from the top down, meaning this is the idea. You bring it down with examples, with to bring it down to a lower level. That's the length. Width, it goes. The letter Hey also has width. The width means that you understand it not only in one tunnel vision. You have the idea of broadening the idea. You understand one thing from another. And then you have also the depth. When you understand, you talk about, for example, you say, I realize that there is a God in the world. I know it. I just see it. I know it. But then there is the depth. What is the depth? You go into the depths of it. There is God that is Memalik Alamin, fills the world. There is God that Seivev Kalamin, that encompasses the world. You go into the depths of the thing. So this is the Chachma and the Bina. The Chachma is the flesh. The Bina is the understanding in the length, bringing down to the lower level with examples, and going to the width and so on, and into the depth. And it says, Lahavin davar mitech davar, in order to understand one matter from another. One things, when you understand the concept, then you can have this concept and you apply it to other things. Because you understand this is also part of the Bina. And from this understanding, from this apprehension, you're able to create, it begets, is offsprings. What is the offsprings? Shein midos, ahava, veyira. The offsprings is the emotions. The emotions, which in generally, the emotions are divided into love and fear. Ahava and yira. Ahava is love and yira is fear. But when you understand something deeply, understand something very well, then you create the emotions. It creates emotions. And all other sub levels, the attributes that is created in the godly soul. The godly soul, that when it contemplates and meditates upon the God's greatness, because his greatness is unfathomable. You cannot really understand. But the more you deeper you understand, you are able to bring yourself to the level of feeling it. Now he says, what happens as a result of your understanding? So he says, many different things can happen. There's many different emotions that can be created from this understanding. So he says, there is one aspect of God's greatness, when you understand it, when you contemplate in one aspect of that the godly soul contemplates in one aspect of godliness, of God's greatness, the result will be that the nefesh elokis, the godly soul, would be overwhelmed by fear and dread. Shehu yira tata'a, sheibchinas malchus. This is called yira tata'a, the lower level of fear, which is the aspect of malchus. So, in other words, when you're talking about the effect that your meditation will have, it depends on what you meditate on. Certain things, certain aspects, when you meditate upon, it brings you to fear Hashem. Certain other aspect, you meditate about all the goodness that God does to you. What does it create? What kind of emotion does it create? Emotions of love. You want to be with Hashem. You want to have Hashem, when all the greatness of Hashem. In generally speaking, there is also in fear and love, it says there's 4 steps. And the way it goes fear, love, fear. There is the lower fear, and there is the higher fear. There is the lower love, and there is the higher love. So the way a person is able to elevate himself is that the step 1 is the lower fear, fear of the greatness of Hashem. The next thing, it leads to love of Hashem. And next thing, it leads to the deeper love of Hashem. What is the deeper love of Hashem? What is the difference between the lower love and the higher love? The lower love is you love Hashem and you want Hashem to be with you. The higher love is when you realize that you are nothing here and you want to be completely included into the greatness of Hashem. In other words, your existence is not at all here. And then that leads ultimately to the higher fear. Higher fear of Hashem is this total self-nullification. The Alter Rebbe in one place explains the difference between the higher fear and the lower fear. And he says it is the difference between the fear of a king or fear of a holy man. When a person is in the presence of a king, he has the lower level of fear. Why? Because what is the king? The king is, what makes the person fear of a king is that because the king is so great, so majestic, is so powerful. But where does the king take the power? The king takes the power from the people. So even though you are so small compared to the king has all this power, but all of the power in the end comes from the people themselves. That is the lower level of fear. But when you're talking about a holy man, a person which is godly, there you have fear. And we're talking about fear, we're talking about the yiras boishes and fear of feeling so nothing compared to that person. Because that person didn't become great because of me or because of so many people. He himself is so elevated, so great, so holy, so lofty, and I feel totally nothing in front of that person. That is the higher level of yira, awe, and awe-inspiring. Continues the Alter Rebbe. So let's see it inside. It says, "Vayesh b'chinas gedulas Hashem." This one level of greatness of Hashem shall deis b'inunus hanefesh lekizbot tipul aleim emasav fachad. One level of greatness of Hashem, when you contemplate in this level, it brings upon you the fear and the dread of Hashem. Sheyirat haTorah sheb'chinas malchus. The lower level of yira. Vayesh b'chinas gedulas Hashem. There is another aspect of the greatness of Hashem, shemimeno ba'a yira ila'a, which derives yira ila'a, the superior level of fear. Yirei boishes. This is called, it is an awe which is out of bashfulness. You feel like you're nothing compared to this. V'yesh bechina, then there is another level of contemplation and greatness of Hashem, shemimena ba'a ahava rabba. There is a level, an aspect of greatness of Hashem when you contemplate. In it, it derives ahava rabba, the great love. V'yesh bechina, and there's another aspect of God's greatness, shemimena ba'a ahava zuta. That as a result, this derives the lower level of love, the lesser level of love. And the same thing is true. This is also true in the external attributes. What is the external attributes? We explained yesterday that there is the internal attributes and the external attributes. The internal attributes is the motor, the engine of what drives you, which is the love, the fear that drives the person to do chesed. When you have love, it leads you to do chesed. Chesed is kindness. And the kindness, this is the external side of the attribute. Now says the Alter Rebbe something very important. Ubekulam tzarich liyos melubesh bahen bechinas hadas. Now, in the faculty of da'as, the knowledge, must be in all of the emotive attributes. What is the knowledge? What is da'as? We have chokhmah, we have wisdom, we have understanding, we have knowledge. What is the knowledge? Says the Alter Rebbe, the knowledge is the connection. When you connect to something. This represents the bond which the soul bonds and is embedded in this apprehension. What does it mean? The bond. Sometimes you understand something, but you're not connected to it. And Chassidus bring an example of, like in the olden days in the village, people were illiterate, they couldn't read. So for the children, they hired a melamed, a teacher, to come and teach the children. He was the only one who was able to read. And from time to time, they would get letters. They couldn't read the letters. So the melamed was the one to read the letters. So here they say about this parent, this father receives a letter in the mail, and he gives it to the melamed, to the teacher, and the teacher starts reading the letter, and he reads the letter, that he receives a letter from his father's place, from his father's family, and they describe how in details that the father fell ill, and in details of what happened to the father, and that the father passed away. And the teacher is reading it, and the melamed is listening, and the melamed fainted. The teacher continued to read. Now, who understands the letter better, the teacher or the father of the child? Obviously, the teacher understands it better. He understands it. He's the one who knows how to read. He's the one who understands what it says. But who connected more to the letter? The person, that farmer. He was the one that connected more, because they're talking about his father that passed away, and that's why it affected him that he fainted. This is the das. The das is the connecting to everything what you understand. That's what Alter Rebbe says. Now the faculty of das must be vested in everything. This is the bond, the soul is bonded and connected to in this apprehension. When you apprehend the aspect of God's greatness, from which one of these attributes was born within it. Because in the moment you have you move your connection to it, the das is removed from this apprehension. The emotion that is created is also removed. It is removed from being revealed back into concealment. And then it becomes only potential and not in actuality. It says the Alter Rebbe, that is why the union between man and woman, it says the Alter Rebbe, in the first time in the Torah, when the Torah talks about Adam and being with Chava, the Torah says, Adam yoda es Chava. Adam knew Chava. Knowing is connecting. That's why the term das signifies a bond which is connection. This is the lower level of das, which means the lower level of das connects the intellect with the emotions. that you shouldn't be only intellectual. You have to connect to it, and you have to start working on it. But then, says the Alter Rebbe, there's also that this is vested in the emotions, in the attributes, and becoming clothed them, to animate them and to sustain them. Then there is also a higher level of das. What is the higher level of das? Says the Alter Rebbe, there is a faculty of das elyon, the superior das. Shu bechinas is kashrus v'chibu, moker haseichel hamasig oimek hamusig. There is a level of das which is connecting the chachma and the bina. The lower level of das connects the intellect with the emotions. The higher level of das connects the chachma. Remember what we said, the chachma is the spark, the flash. When you have a flash, then you have bina. Bina is taking it apart and explaining it. Like for example of company, and you have a business. Yes, you need to have people coming up with new ideas. You have some people who are very creative. They have brilliant ideas, but they're not good in breaking it apart, putting it, explaining how exactly is it going to be. Then you have other people who are good in breaking apart things, but they're not good in coming up with new ideas. So the new idea is the chachma. The breaking it apart is the bina, the understanding. That's why the chachma, it's called, is compared to a well where the water comes under the ground. The well is the source of the water, the spring. The bina is considered to a river that flows. The well can be very small, but it constantly comes up new water, fresh water. The bina is like a river that flows with a lot of water. However, you have to be careful. If when you go about expanding the idea, you have to be careful not to lose focus from the flash. You have to have the connection to the idea, to the concept. So when you feel something, chokhmah is like when you see something. When you see something, you have everything. But when you start developing the idea, sometimes you can be distracted, and you can you can end up in totally other places where it has no connection at all. So you need to have the focus. You have to constantly connect. And then you have the das. The das is the one that connects the idea to reality. This is maybe the manager of the company. Manager of the company has to take the chachma, the one with a bright idea, and the one that expands the idea, combine them together, and to connect it to make some money. This is the manager. So here's the Alter Rebbe says there's the higher level of das is connecting the chachma and the bina, the source of the intellect with the expansion of the intellect. That's what it says. To connect the source of the seichel of the intellect, that comprehends the depth of the concept, which is a point of a flash, lightning that flashes over one's mind, to bring it down, so that this concept will extend downwards. And the depth of the concept will be understood with extensive clarification in in length and in breadth. Shehi Pchinas Bina, that is Bina, Nikris Rechoiva Sano, that is called the Rechoiva Sano, which means the expanses of the river, as will be explained in its place. So this is the end of chapter 15, the end of today's shir, and B'ezrat Hashem, we'll see you tomorrow morning, and tonight also we'll have a shir 9 o'clock, the Thursday night class. So please join us and please share. If anyone has any questions now, we can ask and discuss this Tanya shir.